Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Pyromancer here, and welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all having a wonderful day, morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. And thank you so much for coming to this video and back to my channel. If you guys are new here, if you enjoy yourself in this video here today, make sure you hit that subscribe button and like the video, because it's the best way to let me know that you enjoy my content here on YouTube. Before we jump into today's video, which has a very fun topic I think we're going to have a good time with, it's probably going to be pretty long-winded, I have an announcement. And if you guys follow me on Twitter, you've probably already seen this, but there is a new Warcraft novel, Shadows Rising, written by Madeleine Roux, which is coming out on July 14th. I happen to be one of the fortunate individuals who has an interview with the author, Madeleine Roux, of this new Warcraft book. And in this book, it's going to be detailing things from Thanos to Point Samdi to Talanji, so that'll be a lot of fun to get into. If I'm remembering correctly, I want to say that there's supposed to be like 14 different character perspectives in this book, so it is going to be a wild one. But of course, one of the main things that I will probably end up asking her about is Sylvanas. So that is scheduled for 4 p.m. on July 7th, and I will be getting a new audio setup that day as well. So hopefully I'll have that all ready to go by the time that we record the interview. I haven't decided if I'm going to do it live yet or not. Just in case I do, you should go over to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Pyromancer, and give me a follow, because if we end up doing it live, you are not going to want to miss that. Otherwise, you guys will just find it here on YouTube later. So I'm very, very excited about that. First real interview with anyone ever. So I'm a little nervous, but she seems very kind and like a calm person. So I think it'll be a good time. I can't wait to share that with you guys. So with that all being said, you guys, today we're going to talk about the Shadowlands and what's wrong with it, and some interesting parallels that I think that I've spotted between the Death Pantheon, which we're going to touch on again, and the Titan Pantheon, that might be a little alarming. It's rather alarming. So let's get into it. I think the first thing I want to talk about is Torghast and Oribos, two towers, right? Both of which are conduits for souls to travel to. Oribos is, I guess, just in the ether, right? In the in-between of the Shadowlands. It's where the Arbiter is. That's where souls are funneled through from innumerable worlds into the sorting hat that is the Arbiter, which seems to be not functioning at the moment. Interestingly enough, our presence in the Shadowlands, according to some new data mined dialogue, suggests that we actually caused the Arbiter to kind of stir a little bit. And the guy who tells you this mentions that she hasn't really been active in many, many cycles. So we don't know how cycles are actually passing in the Shadowlands compared to time passing in reality, right? Let's assume that, from the time of the breaking of the Machine of Death, whenever that may have been, until now, the most that we're talking about here is like an expansion and a half, right? So as far as years go, it's not that much time. But apparently many cycles it has been since the Arbiter actually functioned properly. And then you get a cutscene of how it was supposed to work. Then we have the Jailer, which is in the Maw. Now, we learned from some data mine dialogue, which I presume, I don't know if this is confirmed, I presume that these lines came from the Winter Queen, where they speak about how they and the others banded together to imprison the monster that is the Jailer, right? So, here's the thing. Before we jump even further into that, in an interview where Ian Hazzikostas spoke about the Death Pantheon, which I believe he made rather clear is the leaders of the Covenants, right? Your Archon, your Primus, your Winter Queen, your Sire Denathrius, and then presumably the Jailer and the Arbiter. You learn that they banded together to imprison him, right? But you also learn in the very same interview, which I'll link in the description down below, you learn from Ian that there are some parallels to be drawn from the Death Pantheon that exists in the Shadowlands and the Pantheon of the Titans that we know. Now here's some alarming things I'm already beginning to recognize. They all banded together to imprison one of their own. Who has speculated that happening? Oh yeah, this guy. I speculate, I believe that at one point the Titans not only potentially imprisoned Azeroth, and that these Titans aren't really naturally born from these worlds as we're supposed to believe, but regardless of that, I believe they also imprisoned long ago Argus. I do believe that happened. And I know canonically what people believe about Sargeras and doing the imprisoning and stuff like that. But if you read into 1000 Years of War, which is a canon audio drama that released in Legion, you will learn that Argus was energy spinning out into the cosmos. It found a sun which kept it warm. It fell asleep. Argus was sentient, had a sentient memory capacity before he even existed within a world. He fell asleep and a planet built itself around him. Yeah, I don't know about that one. I think someone or some group of people probably built a planet around him, imprisoned him away, and then Sargeras came and unshackled him. Whether people see it that way or not, that's what I would like to believe. Anyway, the premise of this is that they imprisoned one of their own. We could even take it as far as maybe the person who they imprisoned at one point was Sargeras. I mean, he does have chains hanging off of his armor, as though maybe at one point he was actually shackled down to something. Regardless of that, these Death Pantheon members, they imprisoned one of their own. And it happens to be the guy who's like the dark one, appears, to be the one more aligned with the actual primal force of death itself. So of course that's the way it would be described. It also is described on the Shadowlands landing page, the main marketing page for Shadowlands, that we're going to uncover a conspiracy to unmake the cosmos. Unmake the cosmos. We also learn with some of the new data mined dialogue that if the jailer escapes the maw, which is to suggest that the jailer does not want to necessarily be in the maw, and that he is in fact imprisoned there, that him striking down the Arbiter, because it is said anyway that he has a hatred for the Arbiter. It's said that would lead to the unmaking, the unraveling, the end of all that the first ones made. So let's think about this. We have a Titan called Argus the Unmaker who seems to be aligned with death. Fuck, his game files even call him Death Titan, who I would assert was imprisoned at one point by the others, and then they went around the cosmos without the force of unmaking and destruction with them, and potentially death, whatever, however you're going to tie this all together. I'd say death, unmaking, destruction. Maybe they're all tied together inherently in some capacity. Without that, they went around and did whatever they wanted, ordered everything exactly as they would have it be, and then if Argus escapes, right, he can unmake what they've done. He can bring an end to what they've done, which I think that's hilarious, because it seems like in the Shadowlands, the leaders of this Death Pantheon, the members, are kind of referred to as the first ones, as though they are the ones who kind of led to the almost creation even of their own realms. Hell, I believe there's dialogue which makes a statement about how the Winter Queen is actually kind of the conduit for all of Ardenweald, and Ardenweald kind of sprang forth from her hand. Very interesting, huh? I thought that was a very interesting thing to learn. It's almost as though they've taken the power of this anima and they've shaped the Shadowlands that we're witnessing to their own will, to their own accord, and imprisoned one of their own so that he can't do anything about it. Huh. Weird. I've long speculated that there was something wrong with the Titan Pantheon. You guys know that if you're viewers of my channel, and you have been for a while. This is not a new idea for you to hear. But for Ian to say that there are these parallels between the Death Pantheon and the real Pantheon, and then to witness what the Death Pantheon is doing and have it seemingly fall almost perfectly in line with what I've speculated that the Titan Pantheon was doing, boggles my fucking mind. There's a point where I have to sit back and go, am I crazy? Like, do I just see these parallels because it fits my agenda, right? I believe there's a term for that. I don't recall what the term is. I'm sure there's several of them. Confirmation bias, whatever. Occam's razor might be another one. Anyway, the point is, it's shocking for me to witness this and not see the parallels that I see. With that being said, I want to touch on a couple other things, and then we're going to get into like the real kicker about the Shadowlands, which is just like fucking hilarious, which will tie this all together. The thing about Torghast is that it exists in the Maw. And there is a book which comes from the Shadowlands, it's been discovered in Alpha, that has flavor text on it that details an idea that the book was written from a time before the Maw was known as the Maw. That is to say that the Maw may have only been given that title once something terrible was done to the jailer and or the Maw itself, and it turned into what it is now. What I'm getting at is that the Maw and Torghast and the River of Souls that runs through the Maw seems to be the most Greek mythologically inspired thing that exists in the Shadowlands. The names of the areas in the Maw are definitely Greek in origin. You literally have a River of Souls. It's like Hades in the underworld. It's so obvious that that's what it's supposed to be coming from. But here's the real thing. Regardless of what happened to the Maw, and I do believe that it was the result of the others imprisoning the jailer and basically telling him to fuck off when it comes to giving him souls and probably starving him and everything in the Maw. And some people have posed the idea, and I have before as well, that perhaps the jailer appears as he does now because he is starved of anima. Maybe the concept art for the jailer, where he has his full beard and more regal, awesome looking outfit, maybe that's what he's supposed to look like when he has power. But the real kicker about the Shadowlands, and this ties it all together with what I believe is happening on a galactic scale with the Titans, is that in the Shadowlands, from what I can see, there is no cycle, which I find rather alarming because Oribos has imagery all over it that suggests a cycle. Imagery of Oribos, the infinity snake or the snake consuming its own tail, right? But from what I can see in the Shadowlands, there isn't a cycle. What goes in the Shadowlands stays in the Shadowlands. It's a one-way street. You go, you stay. If you go into the Venthyr, you stay with the Venthyr. Go into Maldraxxus and join the Necrolords, you're staying with the Necrolords. That's where you are. Bastion with the Kyrian, all right, have a good time, enjoy your stay. Forever. For eternity. Why are the souls of the dead going into the Shadowlands and then seemingly not going anywhere else? So I'm curious, if everything in the universe dies, is that just it? Does stuff like not come back from the Shadowlands? Are souls not being cycled through and recycled back into reality from the Shadowlands? There doesn't seem to be a cycle here, which ties directly into what I believe about the Titan Pantheon in the universe itself. The cycles have definitely been fucked up, altered to the point where they're not working properly. Notice how the cycle of life and death is always called the cycle of life in World of Warcraft? The cycle of life can be cruel. Cycle of life, and it's almost like death is just left out of everything. The cycles of creation and destruction in WoW, on a galactic universal scale, are fucked. The cycles of life and death are fucked. The cycles of light and shadow, fucked. I'm telling you, the whole cyclical nature of it is completely fucked up. And I'm pretty sure that part of that, or the main reason for that, is because the Titans imprisoned the other two Titans, if that's even what they are, that are supposed to be responsible for handling some of the most important cycles of all. They were removed from the situation so that the Titans could do whatever the fuck they wanted and shape the cosmos according to their own order, perhaps to try to attain creation. And it's like breaking those guys out, like breaking the jailer out, might actually be the answer to solving the problem. Argus isn't a bad guy inherently because he's destruction and or death or whatever it may be. Argus isn't just an inherently bad guy. And then you have your rebel. You have the guy who's willing to side with the other side to try to help them and break them out, like Sire Denathrius. The demonic-looking guy trying to break out the shackled, fucked-up-looking guy aligned with death. Weird. That's a fucking weird one. Never seen that before. And people believe, and I get why, I really do. People really believe that Sargeras was tormenting and subjugating Argus. I really doubt that. I really, really doubt that. Because you learn in Antorus that Argus and Sargeras were actually connected to one another. Magni tells you that. The reason we take Argus to the seat of the Pantheon is to sever the connection between the two of them. Flame and Shadow, or Flame and Destruction, what have you, were directly connected to one another. And we needed to remove that connection. So I would wager that if they were in fact connected, that any torment that Argus would have felt, Sargeras most likely felt it just the same. It might have been a shared torment kind of situation. But the point is that we have a pantheon who threw away one of their own and locked them up, took the powers that be, and started shaping things to how they wanted so that they could rule, and never considered maybe the consequences of their actions. Or maybe they didn't have a choice. Who knows? Maybe one of them in the Titan Pantheon is just leading and controlling all the others, but I don't know who would possibly want to remove death from the cosmos so that they could reign supreme over all things and use their little boy toy Amenthul as a puppet to, get their way. A&R. Anyway, the point is that these parallels are quite alarming, and the fact that there is seemingly no cyclical nature to the Shadowlands raises some huge suspicions for me. This is the speculation that I live for, because when it comes to the small stories, they're cool, they're interesting, whatever, they'll get you by, but when it comes to the galactic scale, the universal scale, the scales that actually determine whether or not reality continues to exist, that is what I like. That's what I find interesting, because that, I think, is where we get into some of the most deep and frightening and just massive stories that WoW has to offer. So it all filters down into microcosms of itself, cycles within cycles, so to speak. But I don't think there's much arguing. There's hardly a cycle happening in the Shadowlands. There's hardly cycles represented properly within the actual World of Warcraft. And things are definitely very wrong. And for Ian to give such a massive hint about parallels between them all and to witness these types of things just actually boggles my mind. So that is what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. If you can't tell, almost every video I'm wearing this fucking shirt, dude. I'm so excited, you guys. And I hope that you share that excitement with me. If you do, make sure to hit the subscribe button. So not only do you make sure that you catch all of the future content coming on this channel, but you get to watch that interview with Madeline Rue. Make sure you like the video, because again, it is the best way to let me know that you enjoy my content here on YouTube. I really do appreciate it. But hey, don't thank me for the videos. Thank my patrons, of course, as they are the wonderful support system that makes things like this possible. I'll throw my patrons up here on the screen if you guys are interested in that. We just finished up our first Patreon monthly Q&A for June. There was about 18 questions submitted, which I answered in video format and published just for my patrons. So if you guys want to get your hands on some patron-exclusive content and some other cool rewards, go and check out my Patreon. Patreon.com/Pyromancer. There will be a link to that down in the description. I appreciate it very much, you guys. Follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/PyromancerSarg, and twitch.tv/Pyromancer, so you never miss my speculative content. Happy 4th of July for those of you that are in the United States. Stop spreading coronavirus. Keep your hands to yourself, please. I appreciate you guys very much. Stay awesome. Until next time, I will see you guys later.